Thanks for joining in. Corporate India has been pretty much sort of expecting the NDA to come to power and Modi to become the next Prime Minister. Early leads at this point in time give us an indication that the NDA is in fact leading in most of the... Let's get those numbers up for you. The All India picture at this point in time gives us, at least the lead situation tells us, can you bring the All India picture, please? The All India picture gives us a sense that at least 16 to 17 seats, the NDA is leading. No, this is not the Karnataka picture. This is the All India picture. The All India picture is about 16 to 17 seats that the NDA is leading. The UPA is continuing to lead in about 10 odd seats. This is Karnataka at this point in time. Sumant, my question to you is that, what do you expect? What does corporate India expect the new government to do immediately? We've heard several corporate captains of industry coming and talking about the despair and the problems that they've been facing over the last couple of years. What can the new government fix quickly?
Well, Harsha, I think that I don't think that corporate India is expecting. I think there's a very strong degree of hope also behind the expectation. And as we all know, the last 2-3 years have actually been very difficult for corporate India. And manufacturing growth and industrial growth really has been at 0%. So the question really is, if the new government comes in, what are the specific things that can be done very quickly? Well, first of all, the new budget has to be presented. And I think that will, in fact, be, in a way, the first real look we'll have at this new government. But, I tend to agree with what Geeta Gopinath was saying earlier, that it's not so much, in terms of what the new government comes out with in terms of specific policies, as much as it is just giving a sense to corporate India that there's somebody in charge now, that there's somebody willing to take tough decisions and get a move on. So I think in terms of specifics of what can be done, I think clearly number one is keep Raghuram Rajan where he is at the RBI. Don't upset the apple cart on that front. That's number one. Number two, I think there are lots of projects that have been stalled on the infrastructure side for a variety of reasons. I think those are things that the government needs to really get a move on in terms of figuring out how to unblock some of these things. It could be, for example, import coal more freely, do blended coal for supplying coal to some of these projects. Number three, make some statements. I don't think they can do more than make statements in the next few days, but certainly make some statements about what their view is about subsidies going forward. Number four, I think they have to talk about what are their priorities in terms of sectors that they want to push going forward. Mr. Modi has talked about 24/7 power, and that has been one of his key sort of planks in terms of promises that he's made. So how is he going to implement that? How are they going to actually reform the power sector in terms of being able to sort of meet one of these sort of key promises that he's made? I think that's a very important aspect. And I think overall, what is the government's view on subsidies, for example? Because that really is totally blocking up our entire sort of fiscal space. That is not leaving the government with any space in terms of making new investments from its own kitty. The next thing that the government can do really is come out of the tax policy that is perhaps more friendly in terms of giving specific incentives to certain sectors. So really there's a lot that can actually be done in terms of giving a directional sense to people in corporate India about where this new government's priorities lie and how it wants to go in that direction. And I think if it can do that, and it can give that sentiment push in the next few days' time, you'll suddenly see a lot more liquidity coming into India. You'll see the rupee strengthening. You'll start seeing new plans getting made. And the only other last thing I would say is that the government needs to fix the financial sector as well, because there are lots of NPA issues in banks. So the government has to come out with some roadmap. The RBI appointed panel recently came out with a very, I think, interesting way forward for the banking sector. So if the government can come out with some point of view on that as well, I think that will all lead to a significant sentiment change in corporate India.